Hey, what's going on, guys? Just getting off of work, and I figured I would do my testimony, get this thing uploaded. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Cordell, and I just got back yesterday, or no, day before yesterday, really early in the morning. But I got back and from Take On the World Tour 2018, and it was awesome. It's one of the best things I've have done in a long time, I should say. Long time. It was great. I had a lot of fun. I got to fellowship with a lot of different people. Got to meet some great people. Got me pumped up and fired up to start being a little bit more obedient to the Lord. It's funny how things work out, where you think you don't need something, and then you get it, and you find out how much you do need it. So I definitely needed it. I felt like my family needed it, and we all, enjoyed ourselves, and we appreciated everybody that was there. Chris and Liz, you guys were awesome. I hope I told you as much as awesome as I really felt in my heart that you guys were, and by throwing that, and how much it meant to me personally. Not speaking for anybody else, but I hope that you guys really understand how heartfelt and how deep that resonated with me. So without any further ado, I was going to talk about myself, I guess, a little bit. I was raised in church, like most people that came to Torah have been. I was raised Baptist, kind of from the ages of probably, I would have to say, like 7 or 8 or so. Sorry, my phone's on the stand that is not very well. It starts shaking a little bit and it starts moving, and I'm not really looking. I'm trying to watch the road, but basically, at around the ages of 7 or 8, I was born and raised in Detroit, and it's pretty dangerous out there. So my mom, she was really into church, and she decided that she was going to, instead of having us be out there in the streets, she was going to have us, be in the church, which, and she was going actively to the church herself. So I was just kind of tagging along, and church was never really like when you're young like that, it's not like you're going to educate yourself in the Bible and those things. And so you kind of just go and roll with the punches. But I did that, and we were probably going to church maybe 6 days a week. There was always something to do. If it wasn't choir rehearsal, it was Bible study. If it wasn't Bible study, it was youth group or what have you. Anyways, so we went to church all the time. Throughout that time of staying in Detroit, because I stayed there until I was about 11 years old. So from the time, from probably about 6 or 7 till about 11 years old, I was going to church pretty heavily. And in the meantime, between time, I had to, we would go to church, and when I would get home, I'd watch my on occasion, it didn't happen every day, but I'd have to watch my mom and get beat up by my father. So that was hard. Growing up as a young man in the world, when you don't have a positive father figure, at least you think you don't have a positive father figure, and you're watching something happen to your mom. I got really attached. I became a mama's boy, and so I did that. Watched that happen time and time again. There was some better days and some worse days, and then on top of all of that, dodging and ducking, gang members and bullets. It was really, I feel like, trying time in my life. And that was in the beginning, so it's crazy. But I've a lot of things I feel like happen in your life that change you for the better. Now, you might not think they're the better at the time, which definitely, getting shot at or almost beat up never felt like it was the right thing at the time. But it definitely, looking back on it, it made me look at the world in a different way, more guarded. And that guarded, ness that I had at the time basically made me guarded enough in spots at a time. So when I got to other places, because after we moved from Michigan, we moved to Washington, and so that's when the guardedness actually helped me out. Kind of got involved with some bad eggs and some bad seeds, and I wasn't full-fledged into it. Got a little bit into the gang life. You get this chip on your shoulder also that comes with being guarded. When you guard your heart from letting people in, you kind of guarding it from everything. I think I was guarding it from people. I was guarding it from the Lord. I was really like in a rebellious stage of my life. After we moved here, I was really angry because I didn't want to leave. Or weirdly enough, I didn't want to leave Detroit. That was my home. That's all I knew. I had a lot of family that was there that I was gonna miss, my cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff like that. So I was really hesitant to leave. I didn't want to, but it, looking back on it now, it was the best thing for me. After we moved here, I was very angry, like I was saying before, and I basically had this chip on my shoulder where it didn't matter, if anybody said something the wrong way, looked at me indifferently, and I didn't like it, I was fighting words, because when growing up in Detroit, you have this you have to have this mentality, where it's like at any time something can happen, so you better be on your guard. So I always felt like something was trying to attack me. So even if a person wasn't necessarily trying to attack me, they were maybe just talking a little bit of nonsense and being silly, I still felt like this is a fight, this is a fighting moment, I need to fight, and I was always fighting, and a lot of regrets came out of those fights. I definitely feel like there was a lot of anger that I was taking out on other people because of things that were happening had happened to me in my life, and so even still to this day, a lot of the fights that I got into, I feel bad to this day that things that I've done to people and how I hurt them, and what I'm saying, it wasn't who I wanted to be. And I feel like there was a lot of times where I had some close calls where situations could have went worse, and if it wasn't for the Lord having his hands over me. I mean, even if you look at the time right before we moved here, and like I said, we moved to Washington State when I was 11. So I mean, I'm 11 years old. We're playing hide and go seek with some friends, and guy pulls up, thought someone threw up a gang sign, and pulls up, sees me, pulls the gun out, and I just freeze, and he's pointing the gun at me, cocks the hammer back on it, and getting ready to shoot me. A police helicopter started flying over our street, and then the car took off. So it's just one of those things where God had some plan for my life, and it wasn't to end then. Thank Yah that was the case, because it was scary. You don't think at 11 years old you're going to be worried about dying, but that was definitely a constant fear living where I lived at the time. So, and I mean, it didn't even end there. When we first moved to Washington, we lived in this area that was predominantly white, and that's when I got my bouts with racism. That was, I feel like another test, and it was really hard for me with that one because I never really understood racism, and I think it was the reason why racism was such a foreign thing to me is because my mom is mixed. She's half white and half black, so I have quarter Irish in me, and obviously you can't see it very well, but it shouldn't matter. And but I still, and yet I would get people giving me the looks. We got our egg, we got our house egged several times. People would come over to our house and throw out derogatory statements and let our dog out of the yard, and he almost got hit by a car a few times. My younger brother would get jumped by kids. It was just so you come into an environment, brand new environment, and that's what I met with. You go from one where it's just angry people trying to survive in this poverty stricken place, to another area where everybody isn't in poverty but they're still angry, and so you just kind of wonder, why is it so much like this. And so I think that's why a lot of times I clung to church so much. It was because in a world full of hate, the only time you really felt love was when you're around your brothers and sisters in the Lord. And so even after a while, my mom, she was always working, so she we really didn't go to church very often, and there was a time, I was probably around 13 or so, where I just started going to church by myself. I would walk to the neighborhood church, and it was one of those Pentecostal churches, and I actually tried a few other churches also. I was just trying to see where I fit in, because I didn't really understand. I knew I loved the Lord. That's about it. I didn't know very much more, but the things that I was taught. So fast forward through a few turmoil driven years, and closer to when I met my wife, the love of my life, the woman that has made me a better man for sure. And I always tell younger guys that I know and that I've met, that if you can find a woman that pushes you to be a better man, you better ring that one. You better grab a hold of that one and never let go. And because that's what I feel like a relationship's about. I feel like a relationship, when you're in any relationship, if you're with a person, if you're friends with someone, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, if you are in that situation where it's a relationship with another person, that person should be helping you strive to be a better person. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's the only reason why you should be friends with people, but I'm saying, like, it shouldn't be the opposite. It shouldn't be where someone's trying to tear you down or talk bad about you. You should never feel like you're less than a person being around people that are supposed to be a friend. So I learned that lesson from my wife. My wife has taught me a lot of things, and hopefully down the line I've taught her some things. I definitely feel like we've bettered each other, but when we first got married, it was a bit of a struggle, because my mom was the type of person, going through the things that she went through when she was younger, that she didn't really think that we should be together because interracial marriages don't work, and what about the kids, and so we caught a bunch of flack. But obviously the Lord thought something different. We've been together now for 16 years, going strong. Words can't even describe how much I love that woman. And I thank y'all every day for her being in my life. So there was, when we first got together, everything, we had a couple bumps and things in, roadblocks in our way. We hurdled them, got through them, had some, everybody has their ups and downs, I feel like, in marriage, and it's just you guys finding yourselves and trying to become the one that the Lord talks about. But there definitely was, some growing pains for myself that I had to work through, and I'm so grateful that she was patient enough to stick around until I worked through them. Still working through some of them, not perfect by no means. I try to every day make sure that I'm working towards to be a better person. So if you fast forward about, probably, I think we've been doing this for about 4 years now, or 3 or 4 years now. Fast forward to it was right around 9/11. My birthday is 9/11, and I was born in 1980. So yeah, I'm kind of old. But born in 1980, and it, you wake up in the morning and you find out that a bunch of planes have hit the Twin Towers and a couple other buildings. A whole bunch of people died, and so you automatically, I'm like, what movie is this? And I found out that was actually the news, and it wasn't a movie. And I'm like, holy crap, and you're sad, you're torn, you know what I'm saying? I had this really like torn feeling, like, whoa, that's crazy. And so the reason why I brought that up is because it's funny. I joined the military soon after that, and then soon after that, I find out that that was all a hoax. We're looking through things, and I'm like, no, there's no way. Who would kill their own people, like, or who would put this into effect? Why would you do that? So at that point, I was already, sworn in as a, United States Army National Guard member, and then I find out after the fact that I still had like 3 more years in my contract that was us, and I'm just like, wow, that's crazy, all the evidence is pointing to that, and I'm just blown away, and I'm just like, and it was just kind of like, I think that's when the ball started rolling, when the Lord really started opening up my eyes to the deceptions of the world, and so you get that one, and then it rolls into other aspects of shootings and other things that we all know about. It was just a snowball effect with those things, and I like to be a pretty open-minded person, so a lot of this stuff wasn't really hard for me to believe that could be a thing. You know what I'm saying? If you've gone through anything in your life, I feel like, and you've been treated unfairly by any kind of, government official or police officer or stuff like that, where there's corruptible positions, you feel like that there's a chance that this could happen. If you never experienced that, I guess I would think that it'd be harder. I don't know. I've never been in a position, but anyways, so we get into that. We start, kind of getting deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, as everyone says, and so after going through those rabbit holes and your eyes being open, it almost engulfed me in information, and it was right around that time where I got all that information. We were staying in our first home that we had just purchased, and I had a business going, and I was, running it. My wife was kind of trying to help me run it as best as she could, and I had a partner at one point, and I had 2 partners, and both of those kind of fell off, and one kind of left me. after I taught him the business, and he left me to start his own, and I was kind of like high and dry. And then the other one, didn't want to be my partner anymore. So things happen for a reason. At least I like to hope that's at least that's the way I feel about things. Things happen for a reason. God puts you in positions that you need to be in at the times you need to be in them, because they're either A, something's going to strengthen you, or B, put you in a better position for later. So I feel like that's what was happening. I didn't understand it at the time, but looking back on it, it definitely was the right moves. So in that process of all that stuff happening, after I lost my 2 partners, I just started trying to do it all by myself. I was probably working like 15 to 16-hour shifts every day, as much as I could work. I mean, maybe not every day, maybe like 5 or 6 days a week I was doing that. And I got to the point where, I pretty much burnt myself out. I didn't even want to get out of bed, let alone go to work. I kind of let everything just kind of slide. And being the primary breadwinner of the household at the time wasn't a really good decision, but it happened. I wasn't all the way there yet. Y'all hadn't got me all the way there. I felt like he had to break me all the way down before he built me back up. I mean, I was making pretty decent money at the time, and I wasn't being very good with the money. I wasn't doing good things with the money, so it just wasn't. I wasn't making good moves, and so I felt like y'all had to pump the brakes for me. And so he's like, okay, well, you're gonna go that direction. I'm gonna stop you right here, and we're gonna redo all of this. And so I felt like that's what happened. I lost the business, lost all my clients. I ended up losing the house, and we were really behind, and I was trying to find work and things, and we got really behind, and then it happened. The lights got shut off, and then that's when the reality, I think, kind of set in. My wife was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go and take the kids, and we're gonna go to mom and dad's. They're gonna go to her mom and dad's, and we got into an argument. She kind of took off, and it was a a little deal. Everything, and I there's no lick of anything that I blame my wife in that situation. I felt like the Lord, it was my fault for sure. I felt like the Lord was really trying to, get through to my, hard head, that there was other things that he needed me to do, and I wasn't in the listening phase. And so I feel like sometimes when the Lord really loves you, he smacks you upside the head a few times, and if you're not listening, he's like, okay, I got you. This is what I'm gonna do. So that's what happened. We ended up losing the house. In that process, after those lights got shut off, I had a little bout with suicide. God, it's nothing. I contribute everything to God. I feel like he's touched my life in so many different ways. So many different times I could have been taken out of this world, and he saved me. And he didn't have to. Even with, him dying for us, and then continuing to save your life over and over again. It's a blessing, and so I just feel like he definitely had his hands over me and was watching over me, and gave me chance after chance after chance. And so after I tried, basically, have to go into too many details. I took a bunch of pills, and luckily I took the pills that don't do much damage. Apparently I didn't know that at the time, but I found that after I got to the hospital. And so they pretty much told me, they were like, if you'd have took anything else, you wouldn't be here. And that's how I know God had his hands on me, because they said it could have been Tylenol, whatever, ibuprofen, any other thing. And you know. So the Lord basically saved me for the umpteenth time. And then we ended up, you know, moving in with my girl's parents for a while, a couple of years. And I think that's when it's all started kind of rolling back uphill after I hit bottom, I felt like. And there were still some, you know, trying moments in there that happened, but for the most part we were moving forward. And then we finally got, you know, money saved up, you know, we started doing more for others. And I feel like anytime that you start doing more for others than you're doing for yourself, that's when the Lord starts giving you those blessings, you know. And I felt like that's when, you know, me and my wife, I got a good job at the time. I started making some good money, and she was still working, doing she works as a CNA at an adult family home, which in return was the adult family home that we ended up buying, and has been a total blessing to us. And hopefully it's been a total blessing to the people that stay there, the elderly that we're taking care of. And so we both were working after that. And so after we, you know, started the business, to build, you know, we moved and got into our own place, and then we, you know, in this whole time, we were, after the 9/11 thing, we still continued to learn more and more about cover-ups and different conspiracies and stuff like that. And we're watching different people and learning a little bit. And then my wife went on this spurt where she, you know, she really dove into the Bible, and she was like, oh, I'm gonna read it, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like when you've been raised in the church, you think you know things. You think you know things because you've been told that that's what it is. And so, you know, you go off of someone else's, you know, words instead of actually reading it for yourself. It makes you feel good, on all the warms and fuzzies come over you, and you're like, oh yeah, I did my good. I went to church, I gave some money and put it in the collection plate, you know, to go towards the building fund. So I did my tithing, and, you know, so you feel like you've done your due diligence for the week, and you're good to do whatever you want to do later. And, you know, between me and her, we always never felt like why is all you have to do is go to church on Sunday and then you're good? And why can you keep doing whatever you want to do and still be okay? How does that, you know what I'm saying? I didn't question it as quite as much as she did, but it still never, you know, I never really got it. And, you know, you just get told by your pastors that, oh yeah, no, you're good, you know, because your sins, you know, they're washed away. You know, God died for the sins, the blood covered your sins. Now you don't got to worry about sin because you're good. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm good. So, you know, needless to say, she, you know, kind of threw all that stuff out. She started reading the Bible. She came across a couple of videos. Fast forward to where we're, you know, we're at now. And then that's when I think it really came into intensity, where, you know, we saw a couple videos from 119 Ministry, you know, and she was like, I think you should check these out. We watched a couple of those. We watched some I'm butchering this, 7 trumpet prepper, 7. I think that's what it is. I'm so sorry. I'm like, my brain fart. I'm still, you know, jet lagged a little bit from the trip. And but so there was a couple of different YouTubers that we came across, and we were watching all these different videos, and everything was trying to kind of fall into place, because things that didn't make any sense made sense again. And you're like, oh, so that's why. And then you figure out, oh, well, I haven't been doing this right this whole time. And you're like, well, okay, well, what else have I not been doing? Oh, I'm supposed to be wearing tzitzit? Oh, well, what else have I not been doing? You know, and so, like, you're just, finding all these nuggets, and when you start following Torah the correct way, it's surreal how good it feels when you know that you are doing what Yah wants you to do. Like, I don't know if anybody else out there felt that way, but I definitely felt. I felt like a totally different feeling than when I felt like I first came to know the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was younger and I came to know the Lord, you felt kind of good when you got the little warms and fuzzies when you went to church. But when you're following Torah the correct way, it's a totally different feeling. It's unreal on how good it feels to be, following the Father, doing what He wants you to do, showing Him your love. You know what I'm saying? Because, that's what He says. He says, if you love me, you'll follow my commandments. So when you are showing Him that actual love, it's amazing. And so, we've been trying to follow Yah in the best of our abilities, the right way. We've been trying to do the right thing by, our children, trying to raise them up in the ways so they'll never go astray. And we definitely been trying to touch as many hearts as we can. And I feel like I try to constantly minister to people when I'm out and about, or I'm at work, or whatever. And I feel like as long as the fruits are bearing the right way, and I'm doing the right things, hopefully that people are seeing that and they're following my lead. I don't know if that helps anybody. I just try to follow what the Lord was trying to tell me, and He told me it was time. I needed to put my testimony up and tell people that His commandments aren't burdensome. And I feel like when you realize that and you start following them, and you actually do it the right way, follow Him, look at the commandments, and follow all the ones that we are supposed to follow, that everything else kind of follows suit, and all the good and all the blessings just start flowing. And I just thank God for having a healthy family, and having a wonderful wife, and having some good friends that I met at the conference, and I look forward to talking and meeting up again with each and every one person that I met, and maybe new people that I didn't meet that weren't able to make it out. We're definitely going to be there next year, and hopefully by that time I'll be a little bit more well known. I'm doing this video on YouTube on my channel that I was supposed to start about 1.5 years ago, and I was being disobedient. So I'm in my process of being obedient, and hopefully I can keep this up. No, I just want to make sure that I'm being as obedient as I can to Yah, and in hopes that He's not too mad at me for prolonging this. So you guys go ahead and look out for me. My name on YouTube is going to be Torah Citizen, and hopefully I'll be posting some more stuff, and you guys can check it out and see if it helps you out. But that's it for me, guys. May Yah bless you all. I love you guys, and you guys have a good day.